Hello and welcome to the News9 Plus show on the world's first news and current affairs OTT platform, News9 Plus. On the show today, we'll talk about the impact of the deportation of illegal Indian immigrants, the troubles plaguing India's indigenous Dhruv advanced light helicopter, and finally, New Delhi's capital shame, its three garbage mountains. The Indian diaspora in the United States is the richest ethnic group in the US. They are top contributors in the US economy and technology. They had some of the biggest tech firms like Microsoft and Google. And they're there in politics, of course. There are 6 congressmen and women on Capitol Hill. But there's a darker side to the story. And it's made up of the hundreds of thousands of Indians who have crossed over illegally into the United States. They are now being deported from the US and back to India. Now, last year, the US deported 1 Indian every 6 hours. The number of Indians deported saw a dramatic 400% increase, rising from just 292 people in 2021 to 1,500 in 2024. But this time around, under President Donald Trump, the US has kicked off the biggest deportation program in its history. It is using the US military and the US Air Force to deport illegal immigrants. Now, the first C-17 transport aircraft is due to land shortly in India, bringing back 205 illegal Indians. At least 18,000 Indians who've been detained could follow suit. Now, there are more than 700,000 more illegal Indians in the United States, illegal immigrants who've crossed over into the US. That's a lot of flights back home. It's a sensitive diplomatic issue between the two countries. It could be on the agenda when Prime Minister Modi visits the White House next week to meet President Donald Trump. The questions we're asking today on the 9 p.m. show is, how can India ensure that illegal immigrants don't sour the American dream for legal immigrants who are contributing to the US economy? Why do Indians want to migrate overseas, risking life and limb? And what lies ahead for the illegal Indian immigrants when they return? Joining me to discuss this are Surinder Singh Lali, Ramneek Singh Maan, and my colleague Manish Jha, Executive Editor, TV9 Bharatvarsh. Gentlemen, welcome to the News9 Plus show. I want to start by asking my colleague Manish to just bring us up to speed on the latest developments. Manish, what is the MEA saying about these deportation flights, the first of which is due to land in India shortly?
MEA has not spoken anything right now about the current military plane which is coming to India with illegal Indian immigrants. But since India has, the government of India has spoken many times about the illegal immigrant issues, and mostly the Indian government is saying that the India and US both are working together to tackle this issue, number one. And then there is a big difference between legal immigrants and illegal immigrants, obviously. So the issue pertaining to H-1B visa or the green card holders or some other Indians who are there, who visited there with visa and legal papers, their issues are quietly different from these illegal immigrants, especially those who went there via donkey routes and some other routes. There are lots of proof with the Indian government as well as US government that lots of Khalistani elements in Canada is also working, and they are helping lots of Indians to illegally enter into the United States.
Right.
So the issue is actually very complex and really, very scary. That's why when we discuss about the exact number of Indian immigrants, illegal immigrants. So when we are saying that it's more than 700,000 of immigrants, then there are lots of people who are actually waiting for green card regularization or H-1B visa issue. But at present, around 18,000 people are ready to deport. And this is the first flight, and we hope that dozens of such military flights will come in a few days.
Yes, absolutely. Dozens of military flights. And Manish, very interestingly, the US government could have sent them back by commercial aircraft, but they've chosen, military aircraft like C-17s. I think they're trying to send a message there. Donald Trump the showman that he is, trying to send out that message that he's using all resources at his disposal, including the US military, to send these illegal immigrants back. But Surinder Singh Lali, what happens to these illegal immigrants when they come back to India? Most of them have paid agents an average of between 30 and 40 lakhs to migrate illegally. What is going to be the impact on states like Punjab and Gujarat, from where these illegal immigrants have come from? And once they go back, what kind of life do they have? Do they actually settle down back, or do they again plan to find some other way of going back?
Thank you, Sandeep. It's a pleasure and honor for me to be here. And it's quite ironical you say that, because when I had, these illegal Indians who were in the process of getting their political asylum, and
Yes.
I wish not to be quoted, some were absolutely illegal when they used to work for me, especially from Punjab. I used to work in New York City.
Yes.
And I would often tell them that, what are you doing in minus 25 degrees, working for $4 or $6 without any benefits, six
Right.
of you living out of a one-bedroom house, and the kind of money you paid to come here. And that was the time when the mobile business was very big in India. So I told
Yes.
them, if you were to invest this money in India,
Yes.
you could not only live with dignity, but that country is growing. This is not the country to be in, but please understand,
Right.
Sandeep, we've been ruled by the whites for the longest of time. So the
Right.
obsession for Gora land,
Yes.
the obsession for going to America, Canada is
Yes.
supreme. And in that obsession, people don't deploy any sort of logics in it.
Right.
It's just the trend that, Santa is going and Banta is going, and I'm also going to go live the American dream.
Right.
And that was a time when social media was not very active, unlike now. So a lot of people wouldn't either come back and tell the miserable, dismal conditions
Yes.
they were living in America and Canada. So, everybody wanted to live the American dream without realizing. And when I would tell them go back, and, if they had a very morbid, confused look on their face, I said, why don't you go
Right.
back? And they're like, oh, how can we go back? Because for them, it was sort of a demotion, because they made so much of noise. They
Yes.
sold their land and their tractor and their farm and pushed their parents to pay and went there.
Yes.
So now it was like, taking demotion. And Punjabis are not known, because they've always been known for their valor and strength and dignity and sacrifice. So for
And
them,
living life
it
king
became a
size.
big
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and their obsession. And, so for them, it was a sort of a dressing down, or negotiating on their self-pride. How can we go back? Because a lot of them, after getting there, realized that this is not the America that they saw on, Top Gun movie that came out, or Beverly Hills Cop. That's what I went and went to America for.
Right.
So once they realized it was too late, and by the time, they'd paid their lawyers, and they had their back against the wall. So they didn't have a choice, as they say in Hindi, marta kya na karta.
Yes.
So a lot of them actually went down this
So
route.
you think it's going to be a trouble for them to fit back into society when they're back? Because while there have been deportations in the past, on this time you're looking at a scale that, Trump is promising the largest deportation program in history, and you have to take him at his word, because he's the larger than life US president, and he wants to convey a message. And if a large number of these migrants start coming back, illegal immigrants start coming, that's going to create problems for the states that they left, Punjab and Gujarat. And you already have unemployment there. How are they going to fit back into society there?
And Sandeep, is one of the most indignified ways of sending them back to is in a cargo plane with one
Yes.
toilet, and the last shipment of these human resources that went where they
Yes.
were shackled, and 5,000 had already been deported. But this will be the first time they'll be packed like cattle class. It's a
Yes.
24-hour journey from the United States, and it's in a military aircraft, although it's costing Donald Trump very dearly.
Yes.
And he wants to quickly do it before, legally all of this gets challenged. He wants to simply, live up to his political promises and get it out of his table by saying, oh, I did it, but it's the Congress, or it's the
Yes,
Republicans,
yes,
or it's the
absolutely.
Democrats
Trump
who's
sending out a
doing it.
message, and 205 illegal Indian immigrants packed in one military aircraft with one toilet, as you pointed out. But I'm going to ask Ramneek about this deportation program. What has been the impact of this on the ground in Punjab, Ramneek? There is a very flourishing donkey network that takes illegal immigrants overseas. It's been in place for several decades, and there's been a spurt in this in these numbers over the last 4 or 5 years, and that's possibly one of the reasons that Trump was elected as well. The Americans were fed up with this flood of immigrants. But tell us about the impact of his deportation program back home in India, in Punjab. Has it dampened the spirits of the donkey network that sends these illegal immigrants abroad, or have they just merely hiked up their rates?
Well, good evening, Sandeep. So let me start by saying this. Well, the real impact would be visible once these boys and girls start to actually come back and get back into the society. Because as of now, they are illegals, all right. I mean, from the US perspective, they have every right to eject these people from their country. They're illegals. Irrespective of the kind of money they spent. I mean, 40 lakhs, 50 lakhs once a year, doesn't matter. What you spend to get there is irrespective now, number one. Number two, well, on ground, the spirits are very different. I'll tell you how it is, that most of these people have been processed.
Right.
They have been processed, like, Lali was mentioning. There are people who have approached their asylee lawyers and their cases are being pursued.
Right.
So anyone who's gone to the, Homeland Department, they're told that we've entered US in whatever ways, and they've asked for either a political asylum or any other form of asylum within the United States.
Yes.
They are considered not to be ejected. And, when these people have poured in the US from Punjab not by the thousands, but by the lakhs.
Yes.
And like you rightly said, it's not just a problem which is restricted to Punjab. As a matter of fact, there are a lot of Gujaratis.
Yes.
There were a few cases where, whole family got killed in the winter when they were trying
on the
to
Canada border.
Canada, from Canada to the US. So the donkey business is not just from the Mexico side; it's also from the Canadian side.
Yes.
And I would also go to the extent in saying that Manish was mentioning that there were a lot of Khalistani. So for us, it's a problem where
it's a national security angle as well. Yes. Of course.
Our people go there. And they seek asylum on the basis of their intent for a separate homeland. And Khalistan is a good escape route for them to get processed legally in the US. And the West, complete West, let's say Europe and US and every other country put together, they had actually been experimenting with an open border policy.
Yes.
A lot of which you see today, the matter that we discuss at hand, that is the illegal migrants in US or any other part of the world, that was a part of the deep state, let's say, or the Joe Biden, or however you wish to put it. They were experimenting an open border policy.
Yes.
And while these countries initially were scarcely populated, and the public, the policy makers and the polity were in favor of immigrants initially, but now they are against any migration to their country because the kind of crime that has gone up.
Yes.
And 18,000 is hardly a number. I can tell you that this would come just from one district of Punjab.
Right.
Hardly a number. So when you talk about the ground reality, again, like you asked Sandeep, the thing is, these boys and girls will still look for a different country. I mean, if they're pouring into the US today, they'll probably be heading to Italy. If, they're being deported, they're not going to stay. They're going to go back again.
They're going to try again and they're going to go back.
The American dream, it's about going abroad and making a life for themselves. And like Lali said,
yes,
we Punjabis, we believe in not just living life king size and dignity and pride. There is no dignity and pride in being illegal.
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, it's more of a paid chal, if I may say,
Yes.
Herd
mentality.
One guy goes out of the village and the others follow suit.
Yes.
And the real picture doesn't come out really because nobody tells what conditions you live in.
Right.
You
Absolutely.
just see the flashy clothes and you see the jewelry and you see the perfumes. That is all.
Right. It's all that thing about telling the pin that you're living life king size in the West and you're living the American dream, and the reality might of course be very different. But Manish,
that may not be the case.
Look at the long-term impact on this. The fact is that there are 7 lakh illegal Indians in the United States, and deporting them could take several months, even years. And there are these massive detention camps that are being built in the United States now, even as we speak. And of all the places in Guantanamo Bay, they're reopening that base and they're converting it into a gigantic detention center for illegal immigrants. And of course, who knows, there could be Indians in those camps as well. Now that doesn't look very good for India, that the fact that you have Indian youth, young Indians and men and women stuck in those detention centers, those stories are going to come out. You know, you're a veteran on the foreign policy beat. Give us a sense of how the MEA, how anxious the MEA is to prevent this from overshadowing the Trump Modi bonhomie that we've seen in the past.
So the good thing is that the both sides understand the whole issue, and the both sides is working together, and that's why see, it's correct that illegal immigrants is really a problem, but at the same time there are some genuine issues related to green card holders or related to H1B visa, which government of India is pursuing very seriously with the US administration. And US administration is also saying that they are considering to fit their policy so that the Indians will not be affected because of those policies. Let's see what happens when Prime Minister Modi and President Trump will meet on 30th February.
Absolutely.
I think that there will be something, and we are very much hopeful. But at the same time, see, the issue is with illegal immigrants.
Yes.
Here is the problem, because most of the time those innocent people or those peoples who are looking a better life for a better opportunity, they are actually they are actually in the trap of some criminal organization.
Yes.
And the government of India is worried about that. Just imagine how they enter to the US via donkey routes, and it's impossible for anyone like us to enter via the donkey routes. So the government of India is very much worried about this, and the US administration understand the whole issues. So that's why there is a need for each and everyone, like for media, for civil society, for government side also, to differentiate between legal immigrants and illegal immigrants.
I think that's going to be the challenge, Manish. Yeah, you know, distinguishing between the legal and the illegals, and I think the MEA will be walking on eggshells right now to ensure that you know, the legal routes, the H1B case is not sullied by this influx of deportations that we're expecting. But Surinder, you had a point to make, and I had to ask you about what the sentiment is back in the United States right now. You have deep connect with the diaspora, but what are they saying about this massive, unprecedented round of deportation of illegals?
It depends on who you're talking to, a Democrat or a Republican. But having said that, Sandeep, I'm going to make a absolutely non-politically correct argument purely based on my experiences. Well, while Mansab rightly said, it's absolutely the prerogative of any country to formulate laws, and it is part of their jurisdiction and brief to allow who comes in and who doesn't come in. But, a very big but, why does America have so many illegal aliens? I want you to think about it. America needs people. They have these backdoor policies in which they allow immigrants to come in by the back door.
Right.
I personally went through one of them. What happens in America is a lot of jobs which the average American wouldn't do, a lot of these Indians, from Mexicans or other people from Central America or the other parts of the world would do. So very often they would open up schemes trying to rehabilitate them, called the amnesty scheme. When I went in the late 80s after I graduated, there was a farming scheme. So all you had to do was, and by the way, it was all within the parentheses of the law, otherwise I wouldn't speak on TV.
Yes.
You know, you get 4 affidavits signed and notarized by your friends that you were involved in farm. They considered your case and they took you 5, 7 to 10 years to give you a green card. And the American gain was that A, they got you into the system, B, they got their taxes, and C, they didn't give you any social welfare. And lo and behold, I missed the farming scheme because I was in college. Then 2 lawyers, Messi and Lulac, took American INS to court. And they said, while this scheme was on, our client had gone to visit to Canada, so I got these affidavits made, which were nothing but piece of paper, purely notarized at $10 each from the local, authority. and then they recognized and gave me a green card. So the larger point I'm trying to make is that it takes two to tango. America has always had this backdoor policy,
Yes.
and now Trump, which is absolutely part of his brief to do this absolute surgery.
Yes.
That's why he started the hornet's nest, because America needed these people.
Yeah.
And I'm still not too sure how many will be deported, because it's a very expensive exercise. As
Yes.
Mansab said, there are millions and millions, and that itself would be a mammoth cost of sending them back,
Yes.
So
Close
this
to a
is some
trillion
sort
is
of
what we've been
publicity.
hearing,
There is some
Surinder
sort of
Singh Lali.
publicity.
Yes.
Sorry?
But yeah, we are
There is some
hearing it
sort
could.
of publicity.
Yes. We are hearing it
In
could
the
cost up to
American way.
$1 trillion to deport all of the illegals in the United States, especially if they choose to do it in this fashion using very expensive military transports rather than commercial airliners. But Ramneek, in conclusion, what should India do on our side of the border to ensure that you don't have illegal Indians going there into Europe, into North America, into Canada, in the United States? I'm sure there should be something that the state governments should do to discourage this kind of outward migration of people. What to your mind needs to be done to prevent this?
Well, see, migration is a thriving business. If you come to the hinterlands of Punjab, you just see two big advertisements on the roadsides. One would be those of churches, and the others would be of migrants or work visas or islets.
Yes.
I mean, this is what this society has been preparing itself for about a decade over now.
Yes.
And this migration didn't start now, like Lali said, in the 80s. Well, the Canadian dream started, when Olympics were held. And then it just kept on. There was a time when you didn't need a, formal visa to travel within the Commonwealth. And India and Canada both were part of the Commonwealth. So they were very different ways of getting there.
Right.
That was one. Number two, when you ask specifically as to what the governments are doing, they're doing nothing about it.
They're doing nothing about it, absolutely. And that's really alarming, Ramneek Singh. Unfortunately, we're completely out of time here. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. In conclusion, I must say that Indians are the richest, most prosperous migrants to the United States, the legal immigrants. But India needs to ensure that the deportation of the illegal immigrants don't cloud the prospects of the Indians in the US, who are some of the best and the brightest contributing to the US economy and, of course, contributing back home. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us this evening. India's advanced light helicopter, the Dhruv, is the pride of Indian manufacturing. It is the indigenously designed, developed and manufactured backbone of the three services, the Army, Navy and the Air Force and the Coast Guard. All of these services operate 330 Dhruvs. Now, all 330 machines have been grounded since the crash of a Coast Guard Dhruv in Porbandar Airport on the 3rd of January. The Dhruv was not part of the Republic Day flypast this year, and the Air Force's Sarang Aerobatics team, which flies the Dhruv, won't be participating in the Aero India in Bengaluru next week. What is the future of this machine? Joining me to discuss this are two senior IAF veterans and former helicopter pilots, Air Vice Marshal Manmohan Bahadur and Air Commodore Ashutosh Lal. Gentlemen, welcome to the News9 Plus show. Air Marshal Bahadur, I want to start by referring to this report in the Hindustan Times today, which attributes the crash to a faulty swash plate. Could you explain to our viewers what a swash plate is and why would this defect be significant? If this is indeed the case, why the Dhruv crashed in Porbandar Airport?
Thank you, Sandeep, for getting me in. And this is a topic that needs to be addressed and is being addressed, it appears.
Yes.
With all the gravitas that is required. The swash plate, the pilot has got a cyclic, which he moves forward, back, left, right, and a collective for going up and down. So these are connected with 4 rods that go and meet something which is called a fixed swash plate.
Right.
And this swash plate thereafter has got rods connecting to the rotors.
Right.
To change the angle, it changes the lift produced by each rotor. Now it appears that one of these 2 swash plates, most probably I believe it is the swash plate at the bottom that has got some defect. Something appears to be broken. Now, what's broken or what's the defect is not given in that Hindustan Times report.
Right.
But it very clearly says that there is a damage there. Because if this breaks or any of the lugs break or any damage happens to the swash plate, then the pilot loses control.
Right.
And that is what actually happened in the Porbandar accident, because the reports say that the aircraft literally nosedived from 200 feet above ground where he was hovering. So that's how important the swash plate is.
Right.
It is, like a person who is driving and you break his steering wheel tire rod.
Right.
Now he has got no control.
Absolutely.
This is exactly what must have happened there.
Right. This is exactly what's happened there, and it's really alarming indeed. But Air Commodore Lal, as a experienced helicopter pilot yourself, tell us how serious this defect is, and would it be just this one machine, or could it have occurred in other machines as well? Because there are reports that there have been this loss of control in other HAL Dhruvs that crashed recently as well.
So, Sandy, thank you very much for having me on your show, and my regards to Bahadur sir. Let me try and put across, because I did some bit of a research on this actually, and try and find out exactly how much more information can we get about this. The prognosis as it is emerging right now is about swash plate. That is very true. The paradox is that I think it's a challenge for the people who are investigating it and trying to figure it out actually, that there are swash plates which have crossed some thousands of hours of the same batch.
Yes.
Are okay. And this is a swash plate which has taken a bit of a crack. So there is some talk of a development of a crack from inwards. Now, once again, I don't want to jump the gun. I don't want to try and sound too knowledgeable on this whole entire issue actually. The fact of the matter is that there is a peculiarity of this swash plate which led to its failure. Is it to do with its life? It's to do with its ability to withstand the stress and the strains of that kind of a magnitude which Bahadur explained. If the aeroplane is weighing about 5.7 tons, that is the amount of weight which is sustained on these swash plates.
Right.
And when you maneuver the aircraft, you weigh more than 1 G. So obviously at 2 G, that aircraft becomes twice. And remember, ALH is a helicopter which is cleared for 3 G.
Yes.
And we remember during our testing times, turning at those binding turns to try and figure it out to 3 G and do those chest points, which was quite difficult for itself. So that is the kind of stress and strain which is subjected to these rotating and non-rotating swash plates. Having said that, is it right to link, do we have a clear-cut link of this to the controllability issue because of which the control rods were changed? Yet to be established. So this is where I think the report flavors it, that it's a sort of a new find for the investigation team to figure it out actually what has gone wrong. But for sure, there is no doubt in our minds that there is a key here, and this is the swash plate which has got a crack inside. Why it has happened, that crack has developed, and why it has given the kind of a failure that it has been seen is yet to be determined, and I'm sure it is being determined right now. Just that we don't have the information from outside.
Absolutely.
It's not right for me to.
We don't have enough information yet. But, Air Marshal Bahadur, the fact is that the ALH is grounded. It's almost unprecedented that all 330 machines across the 4 services are grounded. And, you're looking at a time when the military desperately needs new machines, because you have the Chetak and the Cheetahs, which need to be replaced. They have to be phased out. They're already aging. And then you have a defect with your prime helicopter, the HAL Dhruv. How critical is it for us to fix these defects? You've outlined it as well in some of your articles on what we need to do post-haste with this investigation.
As you said in your introduction, Sandeep, that 330 machines are down, are grounded. We must also remember that the light combat helicopter, Prachand, has the same transmission system as the ALH. So I suppose that is also down. Both these machines are the future of the helicopter fleet of the Army, the Air Force, and the Navy, as well as the Coast Guard. The Prachand is going to form the major component of the attack helicopter fleet.
Right.
So that's the importance. The Army aviation is mostly now ALH.
Right.
So it's absolutely urgent, imperative that we find a reason and a cogent reason uh, before before things go out of hand, in the sense that there is another emergency somewhere. We
Right.
sort out somewhere, someplace, and the emergency happens somewhere else.
Yes.
Like this, if it is a swash plate problem, then from the article it appears that this is the first time that this has happened.
Right.
And as Air Commodore Lal pointed out, that the same batch, thousands of hours have been flown by the swash plates of the same batch, and nothing has happened. So why has it happened this time? We must not have any inhibitions in contacting anyone
Right.
in India or abroad to get to the root cause.
Absolutely.
Whether it is academia or there are specialists abroad or from our own internal industry. Why has this problem happened? Because we are talking of a big mass of helicopters, and
Yes.
obviously the services are suffering.
Right, absolutely. And as you've correctly pointed out, Air Marshal, the fact that a lot is literally riding on this machine, and the future of the Indian helicopter programs, all our indigenous helicopter programs are tied to this one, which is why this crash is really important. But, Air Commodore Lal, there have been previous crashes of the HAL Dhruv as well. Was there any particular set of crashes that, called for a design change in the machine itself, which possibly outlined the fact that we had to change something in the design for it to be safe again?
Certainly, so it's important that we understand it in a little larger context. Let me try and put this across in a different way. Within the HAL, there is a rotary wing research and design bureau, which does the designing part of it, which does the entire planning part of it. Then it gets prototyped, it gets tested, and it passes out from there and moves on to the production aspect. So there is a separate setup, GM Production, who handles this entire thing. He productionizes the specifications which have come out over there. Let me share it with your viewers that the integrated dynamic system, as against the conventional MGB, main gearbox and tail gearbox kind of a thing, which is there in other helicopters, this design has something called an integrated dynamic system, IDS. IDS has been the fulcrum of this aeroplane, in the sense that it has been designed, redesigned through the prototype phase several amount of times.
Right.
The material has changed, the thickness has changed. There's so much of changes have taken place that iteration has gone through. I will pause here. In the Aero India is parked F-35.
Yes.
Not doing a display. Why? Alaska.
Right.
I don't even want to tell you that the CV-22, the Osprey.
Yes.
Not flying anymore actually, which is still because of the big problem of their design in the drivetrain.
Right.
Now those designers are at a different curve of their performance.
Yes.
Okay? They've already had several successful machines with them.
Yes.
And they have gone through this process. And
Right.
yet they are facing this problem.
Right.
Our designer, our engineers HAL and the production house here has got this problem in its ab initio. 1986 perhaps is when the SQRs were written, and Bahadur sir was part of the entire process.
Absolutely.
And he led it practically, it was his baby that was. So it has happened that way. In that process, the whole thing has gone through. So please, let's take a step back and understand that we have a large challenge at hand. Unfortunately, before this, I must mention, it was just last year, 23-24, when we had done a full design review of this helicopter.
Right.
Nothing of this sort had come up. That is when it was again established. All those series of accidents because of control, pitch operating arms and everything else which are attributed to, they were all reviewed. This happened 23-24, just the last year.
Right.
And here's the surprise that has been sprung on us. So please, the challenge is huge on us. That is one part. I again don't go to the numbers, but I can safely say that about 50% of the fleet of our armed forces is down right now. Again, an unacceptable, huge problem.
Right.
Let me tell you, when the squadrons are down, when the fleets are down, the pilots are not training, the planners, the operation planners have got their hands full. They don't know when will they recover and how will they recover the currency and everything else. Because that's a huge challenge by itself. There is a capability gap which comes in when the fleet is down. And I have seen this practically, because this is not the first time an HAL machine has gone down. Would you recall HPD-32?
Yes, of course. The piston trainer.
Yes. It happened on my watch. I was, I was the person instrumental who faced that crash, and he had to put it down. But that was a training fleet which could be easily handpicked
Yes.
and replaced by.
Here you're
laterals.
looking at
Okay, that's a
transport
different-
aircraft, you're looking at gunships, you're looking at, maritime search aircraft, all of that. Yeah.
All I am trying to bring to your
Yes.
viewers this complexity as to how do we meet this challenge.
Yes.
I know for sure in the journey what has happened. There have been many incidences and people have said. There's a one very peculiar angle that I must bring to your notice, that there is an aircraft producer, a designer who's got a wonderful machine. As it has been said, the aircraft can hover at 16,000 feet, carry 200 kgs to 19,000 feet, 20,000 feet.
Yes.
It's practically that the Jersey cow which can run the Derby as well.
Yes.
All right. So please understand that we made a wonderful machine like that. All right. But the challenges which have come through have been innumerable.
Right.
And is there a need for us to sit back once again, even at the behest? Somebody will take this cost and effect balance. Somebody will take a call on this. Actually, I'm sure there must be a team of people who are doing this. Is there a need for us to step back once again and do one more, perhaps if required, a very thorough investigation and to try and go that? Is there a possibility of fitting these swash plates in a little bit of misalignment,
Yes.
which can eccentrically produce that kind of a stress, which can take to the failure? Don't know.
Right.
What is possible? Can it be fitted? Can it be misfitted? There are many methods of this entire engineering aspect takes place. From the design board of a designer, then it translates to the production house. There is a very stringent protocol which is to be followed.
Yes.
It is often been seen that way, that when it is being productionized, and we know that fact that our productionizing is not very of the quality which one would expect, and we need to perhaps move on that fact.
I think
So
there are a lot of
several
lessons,
gaps.
Air Commodore Lal, you've correctly pointed out there are a lot of lessons to be learned from this. And, Air Marshal Bahadur, could you put yourselves in the seat of the investigators who are looking at this very tragic accident? And of course, this is, as Air Commodore Lal mentioned, it is a crisis unlike any other crash, because you're looking at an entire helicopter fleet. Like he says, 50% of the helicopter fleet is grounded right now. So there is a lot of pressure right now on the investigation team to get not only produce the report but also recommend certain suggestions. Do you see a lot of course corrections now based on what the investigators now recommend? Would there be a need to look at the swash plates, for instance, of all the machines of that particular vintage that are in the services?
As a crash investigator, a lot is riding on your professionalism and truthfulness,
Yes.
and your capability to get down to the brass tacks, to the last point. And I'm sure that the court of inquiry which has been convened, and I understand some specialists have been brought in even from the Air Force. So having said that, the court of inquiry team, the lead investigator, will make sure and should make sure that he is not in a hurry.
Right.
This is not the first time it's happened. I can count on my fingertips loss of control of at least 7 machines, 6 to 7 accidents attributed to pilot losing controls.
Right.
So he has to get down to the bottom of it. The accident would have, created a big problem for the investigators, because you have to distinguish between pre-crash and post-crash condition. Did that swash plate problem happen before or after the crash? But there are technical tools available to distinguish whether it was pre-crash or post-crash.
Right.
Having said that, then, as Commodore Lal pointed out, if the design is okay, then was the manufacturing correct?
Right.
Was the product coming out of the metal of the foundries and the design of the manufacturing area, was that as per the design? That's where the DGAQA comes in. So people right from the designer to the person who's checking equipment, each and every swash,
Right.
each and every swash plate, each and every control rod coming out, are our mechanisms for checking integrity and fidelity of every equipment coming out. Is it as per the designer? And finally, it comes to the maintainer, the technicians at the field level. So what I can tell you is that any design in which something can be fitted ulta is a
Yes.
bad design, plain and
Yes.
simple. Okay, so I think when it comes down to the field level, things are
Yes.
very streamlined and laid out.
Right.
Which way things have to be done.
Absolutely.
So let's wait.
Yes.
Let them take an extra 15 days, 20 days,
Right.
whatever. Doesn't matter. Boeing 737 was down for almost 2 years.
Right, absolutely.
But they've got the problem.
There's no rushing with this investigation, Air Marshal Bahadur, as you just pointed out, because a lot is riding on this particular investigation and the criticality of it. You just heard from Air Commodore Lal and Air Marshal Bahadur, the fact that the HAL Dhruv is the workhorse of the Indian Armed Forces, and we can only hope that it emerges from this chopper crisis as soon as possible. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us on this issue.